Procurement follow-up. On behalf of our President, Ron Budd, our board, chambers, and our staff, thank you for attending. I'm Warren Richard Jr., Outreach Specialist with the U.S. Black Chambers, Inc., affectionately known as the national voice of Black businesses. We represent over 140 Black chambers and small businesses across the nation and are founded on 5 pillars of service: advocacy, access to capital, contracting, entrepreneurial training, and chamber development. This webinar is a very special follow-up event that took place first on April 20. U.S. Black Chambers, Inc. partnered with Treasury's Procurement Equity Council and the Office of Minority and Women Inclusion, U.S. Department of the Treasury. The target audience included vendor prospects that were vetted and are by chamber organizations affiliated with USBC. With a prerequisite, they are already registered in SAM.gov, prepared to do business with Treasury, and provide products and services in meeting Treasury's mission. There were 50+ registrants that were qualified to attend with appropriate NAICS codes and annual revenue requirements invited by the chamber. This webinar, crafted in collaboration with our chambers of commerce, providing technical assistance and resources to businesses across the U.S. with the U.S. Small Business Administration's Community Navigator program. Thank you for your assistance in developing and sharing this program. Our team, USBC, as well as our 20 Navigator chambers, look forward to being a resource to you and your business as you navigate through this journey. Today, we welcome a panel discussion with 3 distinguished experts: Contracting Officer with the Office of the Department of the Treasury, Christopher Frank. He and Pamela Wilson, who has over 42 years with the federal government, have been invited to answer direct and to-the-point questions on procurement opportunities with the U.S. Treasury. We also have with us our Vice President, Director at USBC, Alisa S. Joseph, who will serve as moderator to direct questions already received from qualified businesses ready to go through the procurement process in this fast 30-minute segment. Today's moderator, Alisa Joseph, has a proven record of accomplishment in leadership, strategic planning, granting, marketing communication, and program design strategies and implementation. With over 25 years of experience in the financial services industry, she brings a wealth of knowledge in financial products, those providing access to capital, supply chain management, diversity initiatives, marketing, and management. She manages key relationships with corporate partners like American Express, Google, Facebook, JP Morgan Chase, Truist, Wells Fargo, and government agencies, including the U.S. Small Business Administration, Opportunity Finance Network, the Minority Business Development Agency, and the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Businesses divisions in federal government agencies. Ms. Joseph is a graduate of Fordham University with a BS degree in psychology and received her MS degree in organizational psychology from Columbia University. She is a member of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated and has served on nonprofit boards. She is married and has 3 children.
Well, thank you, Warren. It's so a great pleasure to be with everyone today as we look at this follow-up opportunity for procurement contracting with the U.S. Treasury. And so what I'd like to do very quickly is just introduce to you our speakers. Our first panelist, Pamela Wilson, began her career with the federal government more than 42 years ago. And in December of 2020, we joined the Office of Minority Women and Inclusion team as an Associate Director for Business Diversity and Equity. She brings more than 4 decades of experience as a champion for underrepresented businesses, promoting equity across Treasury bureaus and departmental offices. Prior to coming to Treasury, Pamela worked for the U.S. Small Business Administration for 25 years, where she served in various capacities, including small business opportunity, 7J program manager, and acting director for the 8A program. Next, we have a little bit of technical difficulty, but he is with us. We have Christopher Frank, who is the contracting officer in the U.S. Department of the Treasury, Office of Inspector General. He's been at OIG since November 2020, and earlier in his career, he served on active duty in the United States Navy, worked at multiple contracting offices, including the Navy, Marine Corps, U.S. General Services Administration, or GSA, Veterans Administration, and Novation, which is considered to be the largest group purchasing organization in the country. He's a graduate of the American Graduate University, the Acquisition and Management, and he's a member of the Disabled American Veterans Association. It's an honor and our pleasure to have both of you with us today, so thank you so much. And welcome to our discussion on the Treasury Equities Procurement Opportunities. Pamela, especially thank you so much for all the work that you've put into the first we had in April, which was a great success, and we were happy to be part of that. And thank you again for inviting us. Qualified companies attended that event because they met the U.S. Treasury targeted NAICS codes list, as well as SBA size standards for these opportunities. And so from your perspective, what does it mean to be contract ready for that are in these industries and have the classifications, excuse me, that the U.S. Treasury is seeking to buy from?
Okay, so that's a two-part question. Thanks, Alicia, and thanks, Richard. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for inviting Treasury. Just so the world can hear out there, we did some event together on April the 28th, and as Alicia said, it's a follow-up. And so Alicia and the rest, we're so happy to continue to partner with you all to make sure that we are doing the best that we can to reach out and serve the underserved communities, because we've all been tasked with Executive Order 13985, and that's our main goal, to do that. So thanks again for this follow-up event. So again, Alicia, that's a two-part question. I'll start with the first part. So to answer that question, to be contract ready in the industries and have the NAICS codes classifications that Treasury seeks to buy from, it means various things. First, we have to unpack this thing. First, business must do its homework in order to prepare to offer its product and or services to Treasury. This means educating yourselves regarding Treasury's mission and how your organization or company can actually help to meet that mission. So I'll tell you a little bit about what Treasury's mission is. So in a nutshell, basically our mission is to promote economic growth through its policies to support job creation and economic stability. 2, we actually oversee the production of the coins and the currency. So I'm sure you guys have some change in your pockets, some dollar bills. We're responsible for producing those monetary value items. And we act as the steward of the United States economic and financial system. So in a nutshell, the mission is primarily anything about the economy, financial stability, and all about the money. Second, after you understand the mission and how your company can assist in meeting that mission, we need to determine the needs of Treasury and its bureaus. And how to do that? By reviewing the annual forecast of contract opportunities. Alicia had talked about that a tad bit earlier, and not just Treasury, but all federal agencies are required by Congress to post an annual procurement. We have to post an annual forecast of contract opportunities onto the website for all to see. So one, you have to take a look at that forecast. The forecast of contracting opportunities will list the potential procurement opportunities that Treasury plans to procure, along with the assigned NAICS codes. Third, you need to register in SAM.gov, and I believe that most of you, if not all of you, are there. And also the FBA's dynamic small business search, which is their database. These databases are connected. To be honest with you, when Treasury and other agencies go out to do market research to find out who's out there in the market, and if you guys can provide a service to us, we actually look at the SBA's database in addition to the SAM to see what you guys are doing and what services you can offer. If you go to SAM, it will allow you to search for potential procurement opportunities and also agency-sponsored outreach events. It is very important that you keep your SAM.gov and your SBA profiles updated. And let me tell you why. Federal agencies are not allowed to do this with you all unless your registrations are active and current. We're currently working on a requirement right now at Treasury, and a particular vendor wasn't registered, well, they were registered, but their profile was inactive. And all that we were doing behind the scenes, it really didn't matter because at the end of the day, that profile is still inactive. We're not allowed by law to do business with you. So it is that you keep those profiles active. Typically, when I counsel clients, I tell them whenever there's a change in your organization or business, an address change, a phone number change, CEO swaps out, your core competencies swap out, whatever that may be, go in and make that change. Therefore, to make your profile all active. However, the law is that it should be updated a year, but I typically advise people that whenever there's a change, you want to go in there and make that change because, again, if it's not active, there's nothing that we can do to help you out to do business with you. Additionally, if it makes sense for your business, become a GSA schedule holder. Most federal agencies, including Treasury, procure goods and services by utilizing contract vehicles. And there are also other agency type contract vehicles such as NIH's NITAC, NASA SUIT, just to name a few. Treasury encourages growth through the use of small business utilization. So we do all these things, our mission, trying to achieve the mission, etc. But we utilize small businesses in order to help achieve. So what you should do as a vendor, one, you want to participate and or attend not just Treasury, but any vendor outreach sessions that organizations are having, particularly when they're free. Be sure that your business certifications are up to date. Make sure that your company capability is current. Let me add a little tip. You have your basic company capability statement, right? When you're doing your marketing, you're approaching a prospective customer, you might want to have a one-page slicker with some basic information about what you do. But once you get that actual face-to-face or phone call or Zoom call meeting, whatever, with a contracts person, etc., you want to have a full-blown company capabilities. If you can, you want to be sure that you cover all of the services that you provide. If you have the budget to do it, some of those capability statements should be tweaked based on the requirement for the particular organization. So sometimes that may cost you a little bit more money, but if you have an electronic format, then it should be, just update that and say if you're coming to Treasury, you can update about a particular requirement and make sure it speaks to that in your company capability statement. And also as a vendor, you should also visit the OSTBU's webpage, www.treasury.gov/OSD. That's Oscar Sam David Bravo utilization. www.treasury.gov/OSTBU. Basically, we're the small business office. Other things to consider: if your company is not prepared to be a prime contractor, consider becoming a subcontractor. Participate in SBA's Mentor Protege program. Necessary, partner with other like-minded businesses. Sometimes when you're trying to build your base or build your capability, you're going to have to partner with other type businesses that are in the same or similar line of business as you to get the lay of the land and how organizations are operating, how they're working, until you can get to that level to become a prime contractor. And trust me, it is nothing wrong with contractor. Sometimes you make more money in subcontracting than you can as a prime. So just keep those things in mind. Be sure that you can provide a service that Treasury can utilize. And I always say that every agency does not buy everything that you're selling. So again, you want to make sure you go back, you do your homework, you want to understand what the mission is and actually what they buy. So for an example, if we have vendors that will approach Treasury If you take a look at that forecast of contract opportunities, you will find very little opportunities in the construction arena, maybe in the snow removal arena or the janitorial arena. Treasury is all about the money, things surrounding IT. So I'll quickly go through this and tell you what Treasury does buy. Computer-related services, computer systems design, software, administrative services, telecommunications, computer facilities, computer programming, other computer consulting services. Anything computer-related, IT-related typically buys. So I say that to say you need to understand who your potential customer is, what the mission is, and what is it that they are buying. You really don't want to spin your wheels approaching an organization that does not need the service or product that you're selling. You want to get to those right organizations. So for example, if you do a lot of construction company, construction services, you really want to get over to the Army Corps, lots and lots of construction, but Treasury does not. Here's how Treasury buy. We buy through open market acquisitions. We buy through small business set-asides, GSA schedules, sole source procurements, purchase cards, far and few between, but we do purchase card buys. We get involved with teaming, blanket purchase agreements, open markets to small business, and also unsolicited proposals. So for those of you out there in the universe that are listening, and if you have a product or service that you need to sell to Treasury to help meet the mission, and you go and take a look at the forecast of contract opportunities, and what you want to sell to us is not quite there, you can actually do an unsolicited proposal. Some people like to call them a white paper. Treasury has various bureaus, and each bureau operate differently and independently. And so I do know that the Internal Revenue Service has on their website how you go about submitting an unsolicited proposal. Lines are there. Other Treasury bureaus, they kind of hold that close. So sometimes you have to contact the small business specialist to get that information to you on how to do that. So it's something, again, that you want to approach Treasury with, that Treasury does not buy, but you know that Treasury can use it to help solve a problem. And so therefore you want to submit a unsolicited, hey guys, we have this idea. Treasury makes these dollar bills. For example, we had this vendor and we make this special cleans the money because money is very dirty. And so even though Treasury wasn't looking to buy that, then therefore they had to do an unsolicited proposal, say, hey, we want to sell this idea to you. In addition to that, although Treasury has various Treasury bureaus like the Internal Revenue Service, we have the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, we have the Fiscal Service, and many others. You know, my time is short, so this. We also have two bureaus in particular that we like to call our centers of excellence. That would be the Internal Revenue Service and also the Bureau of Fiscal Service. We call them our centers of excellence because not only do they buy for their particular organization, they buy for other organizations as well. So for an example, if you are interested in product or your service to Treasury headquarters, where my office resides, that's where the Secretary of Treasury is, et cetera, and you want to do that, Treasury headquarters does not have a procurement office. So therefore, we utilize the Internal Revenue Service procurement staff to do that for us. The Bureau of Fiscal Service buy for other Treasury organizations, some of the organizations, but they also buy for external organizations like HUD, for example. Steps to doing business with Treasury. So some of this I will be reiterating, but again, it's very important to answer this question. How do you be contract ready? 1, do your market research, understand Treasury's mission, determine your prospective customers' needs and how you can fill that need. Understand what Treasury's bureaus buy by reviewing the forecast of contract. Attend our vendor outreach sessions to discuss those identified opportunities. So again, you don't want to come to those sessions just willy-nilly and say, hey, I'm Mr. Brown and here's what we do, what we sell. You want to be a little strategic. You want to take a look at the forecast, identify some things. So when you do get a listening ear, whether it be a specialist or a contract, you want to be prepared to have a more robust conversation around a particular requirement opposed to just something that's open market. If you have no past performance, consider mentoring. Utilize your resources by contacting Treasury's Ossibu office to answer your questions and concerns. Steps to doing business with federal government, period. Know your company's capabilities and your customer needs. Who's buying what you're selling? Again, everybody's not buying what you're selling, so you want to be strategic to find out who has a need that can be fulfilled, where you can fulfill that for them. Know what the small business designations are. Are you SDB? Are you woman-owned, hub zone, etc.? Those particular categories become very in contracting as far as Treasury meeting goals and other agencies. Make sure you have your unique identity identifier number. We all know those as the old DUNS number, but now it's called the unique identity identifier number. It's a mouthful. Sorry about that. Make sure you're registered in SAM and SBA's databases. Determine your appropriate NAICS codes for your business. There are NAICS out there that are determined by SBA, and you understand those, and that is actually describing the service that you provide. Look for the forecasted opportunities on SAM.gov. Become a GSA or Federal Supply Schedule holder. Market your company goods and services toward fulfilling the federal government socioeconomic goals and initiatives. So I'll just tag that. Just don't say I'm an 8A vendor. Say capable small business, and here's what we provide, and here's how we can meet your mission. We've done research on your organization. So what are the next steps? What do we need to do? And we like to fulfill that for you. And oh, by the way, we are 8A. By the way, we're a woman-owned small business. Have you met your goals? I actually looked on your website. I see that you're down on your goals. How can we help you to fulfill that? Be responsive to requests for additional information. That is very important. The second part of that question, Alicia, you want me to answer that, or you want to address it, or you just want to go into the second part?
Yeah, we're going to go into the next part. I want to get Christopher into this conversation because I think there were so many great points that you delivered, Pamela, and I think primary that Diversity and Equity Inclusion Office at Treasury is really sort of a new. It's really sort of a new division to some degree, with a real focus on minority businesses. And I think, Chris, a lot of the work that you're doing as a contracting officer, a lot of the points that Pamela brought up, particularly when we start thinking about purchase cards and the different levels of contracting and procurement, different ways to get in on the ground level, as well as the more sophisticated request for proposal level. You sort of manage all of that. So my question for you is, typically, folks are going to want to sort of know more about what's happening. There were a number of different opportunities from the April event that were listed. When they're contacting you, Chris, what is the best way for them to do that? Is it through email? How much time should elapse before they reach out to you? And with COVID here, does making a phone call even make sense anymore, or really should it be much more of an email contact? So how do you like to be contacted for these opportunities?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me on here. Can you guys hear me, first of all?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Okay, so thank you. First, it's a great opportunity to come on here. I love these type of events. I love any type of small business participation. But anyways, I would say the best way to get a hold of anybody, I mean, I'll do, say, the question reads how soon and how much time and everything like that. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say for this whole situation and your question, it's going to be a depend, because what you're going to run into is if you're looking at an opportunity that is, say, a year out, right? Or 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, that's plenty of time for the procurement process. And you're good. You got in early. You're part of that discussion. But then if that requires a month and you say, I'm solution now for that, and you want to be involved in that part, the discussion and the conversation included in that competition, I mean, you're going to be following up a lot faster. Similar to the way I look at it is you put for a job and you've gotten they said the job started in 2 weeks. Well, if you don't know something before, like a couple of days after the interview, like, oh, am I selected? Just get in there. It's a business. I mean, you ain't hurting no one's feelings. You ain't hurting my feelings. If I see your especially if I see you sending me emails repeatedly, daily, I'm trying to clean my inbox up. I'm a millennial. That's how I work. I'm like, my inbox is empty, or I know where it's at. I'm good. So that, as far as the call, I mean, sure, leave a voicemail too, because there's visual voicemail. It's very similar to an email, and it creates urgency to address the issue, because there's always the aspect that I working for GSA, something that I ran into quite often as a contracting officer there awarding schedules is whenever I was awarding a schedule and I wasn't doing it quick enough or something, they're confused about something. I mean, it wasn't uncommon for them to reach out to someone above me or a small business advocate or somebody, and they would reach out to me. So if that's an opportunity that you really want an opportunity to get at, I mean, don't give up on getting a hold of someone, because I would say that's very important for them to understand that you can do it, because they want a competent competition in the procurements. I want that. And if it's a small business, great.
Following that up, Chris, one of that I think was a great tip from Pamela was, and I hope all of you wrote this down with really how to start the conversation, how you lead into the discussion with really a solution in mind for a particular agency, and then potentially talking about your other qualifications. So I'm sure that you get a lot of questions around the process. I know that it's important for people to be certified, at least gives you a leg up in this process as well. So what's one or two important messages that you would convey to businesses that are seeking counsel, particularly on winning a contract with the Department of the Treasury?
Yep. So I think, I guess I'll repeat them, because getting any type of designation, such as, an 8A, being in the 8A program if possible, getting involved in that, and then heavily marketing that, because that's up to $4 million for services, it can be direct awarded. And that's a very common thing. I'm like, hey, an 8A. So honestly, I'm like, hey, I want to get government and I want to build small business, and we can do all that really quick and right now. So if you can get a designation such as that, that's very powerful. And I would definitely utilize that. So the other side of things, in order to get, I just went through a procurement process where I had a competition that I put out on GSA, and it was under the SAT. It was 150 grand, and when I put it out the first time, I got 3 responses, and one, basically I ended up doing the evaluation and determining that the second highest bid was the one that gets the contract. But then, and this is where the key point is here, is the small business that was basically felt skipped over because they felt their proposal was weak. They submitted a protest at the agency level, which was me, and I found that it was sustainable. So I had to cancel, resolicit. They ended up getting the procurement, the requirement awarded to them. But the key of all that is what they did was they weren't afraid to protest, for one, say something, speak up, and two, they read the statement of work and most importantly, the evaluation criteria, that they knew that they were qualified in accordance with what the solicitation was asking. And that's an important feature out there. Just make sure you read. Most of the time it's going to be called Section M, and a lot of different, most formats for contracting, but always very heavily pay attention to what we're looking for in the evaluation criteria and how you're going to be evaluated. It's very important.
I think those are really great points, Chris. It really is just like any other business opportunity. This is really about understanding who your potential customer will be and what it is that they're going to need, and also understanding what makes you qualified to do that work. And I think sometimes, to your point, we don't always speak up the things that we know not only are we qualified to do, but we know that the criteria set for that also, we meet those objectives as well. So I really appreciate you talking about that. For both of you, I want to, and Chris, I'll start with you, and I'll end with you, Pamela. I want to ask a question about resources as well as the simplified acquisition procedures. So let me start with those first. What are simplified acquisition procedures? And is this a strategy that small businesses should be using when seeking a government contract on the type of contract that's out there? What are your thoughts? Chris, I'll start with you first. And then Pamela, if you want to chime in, feel free.
I mean, so simplified acquisition threshold is between 10,000 and 250,000. Yeah, I mean, be set aside for small businesses, and they usually are. I mean, a majority of my procurements are set aside for small businesses, to be honest with you. I mean, as far as the procedures go, I mean, if you're going to be targeting any type of simplified acquisition, contracts, basically, again, 10,000 to 250,000, I would say as the contractor, the strategy for that is to on the part 13 and really understand what is in part 13, because it's simplified acquisition for a reason. It's actually a simplified chapter too, and if you understand that and go after those opportunities, I think it's going to make your life a lot easier, because otherwise you're going to be constantly intimidated by every process that you get into. But it's literally that book as an instruction for me. So I'd say, I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm just kind of giving details on that.
No, it does. And I want to just break down for people. I'm sure that you all know, but I want to be clear. When we talk about NAICS codes, we're talking about the North American Industry Classification System. When we're talking about FARs, we're talking about the Federal Acquisition Regulations. So every government contract is governed by those. And it's important to understand what each one of those sections or requirements are in a contract. They're different based on the contract, but it's important to know some of these, not only the acronyms stand for and how you should be working to engage this. So yes, Chris, it definitely does answer my question, particularly when we're talking about the smaller contracts, because there's times where we need to get in the door, and that is a way of building past performance, right? Starting with the smaller contract, getting it, I've seen customers who have gotten, or businesses that have gotten multiple smaller contracts, 10,000 here, 20,000 there. That adds up to revenue perspective and may not have all the requirements or all of the number one risk as well as expenses associated with very large contracts, but can still be pretty substantial for business going in, particularly establishing past performance for those larger contracts. So when we talk about that whole idea, Pamela, what resources and tools, other training does the Treasury offer? I know we're doing, webinar like this, but are there other tools and resources available for our businesses?
Let me come off of mute. Okay, yes, Alicia, that's correct. I just want to preamble the response by saying that a training organization. Treasury provide training to the vendors via our outreach sessions, and also by collaborating with our internal and external partners, such as the SBA, the PTACs of the world, the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, the Small Business Development Centers, and other federal agencies. So, for example, if one should attend a Treasury vendor outreach session, we typically collaborate with the SBAs of the world, the PTACs. They'll come in, they'll have a table. And so while you're in between your appointments talking to Treasury staff persons, you can also go to the resources to talk to them about the different training opportunities that they have. Honest with you, Treasury is not a training organization. It's not Treasury's main mission to train businesses on how to do business. And to be quite transparent with you, when the businesses actually approach Treasury, they should be ready to do business, hitting the ground running. And so they should have gone to the SBAs, the PTACs, and other organizations to understand all those things, to start run the business, to make it successful. And then now you're ready to engage the federal government. So that's the position that Treasury takes, although we do work with organizations to provide those training sessions. The flip side of that is we are required to provide training internally to the staff. So if the staff, such as a Christopher on the line, someone else needs to understand a little bit more how the small business world works, et cetera, they need the required training that actually comes from the Yasibu team. I was in that team for 18 years, but as you see, I'm on the Army side now, on the diversity side. So with that being said, they do provide training to the officials within Treasury to tell about the different partnership agreements that SBA has. How do you market? How do you do this? How do you talk to a vendor? How do you engage a vendor? How do you make the connections with the program person, et cetera, et cetera? So from that perspective, Treasury does provide a lot of training in-house to the acquisition personnel, but externally it's kind of limited because we're not a training organization. But the good news is that the OSCBUL has staff persons on that team that comes from other organizations where they do have the expertise to provide the training. So for an example, when I was there, I came from the SBA, so I was able to train like I am today and talk about different things that may fall out of my purview today. So so to answer your question, we do a lot to provide the training, but we're not a training institution.
And just to connect the dots on that, that's why we're having this session today, because USBC, affectionately known as the National Voice of Black Business, we are doing that work with Treasury, with SBA, with the PTACs, with the Small Business Development Centers, with the MBDA centers, with other nonprofits, as well as our chambers, to ensure that we're listening in today have the resources and the connections that you need to do the work that you're seeking to do to grow your businesses. So I want to open it up. I know we've talked quite a bit. I want to open it up right now for any questions. Please feel free to put those in the chat. And Christopher and Pamela will be happy to answer your questions today. So please feel free to start now.
Hopefully they will. Alicia, if you don't mind, I just want to tag along with what Crystal was talking about acquisition procedures. I'm so glad that he and I tag teaming this because he's an official contracting officer. And so he can tell you from that side of the desk how he does that. But from a small business perspective, if you go to Treasury's annual contract opportunities, what's very unique about Treasury's forecast is that we do list the simplified acquisition procedures opportunities. We do list the micro purchases. So just to be clear, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not required by the FAR. We're only required by law to post the 250s and above. So anything below that would have tons of vendors calling saying, hey, how do I find the small stuff, low-hanging fruit? How do we do that? And so we just kept thinking of ways of how to post that because it's very difficult to grab that information from the acquisition teams because they're trying to focus on the 250s and above. So, okay, guys, we got to get some low-hanging fruit. How do we do that? So when you go to the annual forecast contract opportunities, when you do your searches there, you will find some micro purchases and also the simplified acquisitions. So just to piggyback on what you're saying, Elisa, it's a really good way to get your foot in the door, to prove your capability, to build capacity, et cetera, so that the organization, be it Treasury or someone else, can really understand the organization and who you are. So just do market research on the agencies. We need to understand your organization as well and how we can help meet that need as well. So I just wanted to tag on about the stats.
No, I think that's great, Pamela. And while we don't have any questions, usually folks are a little shy. So we want to make sure that you all know after this event, you can ask. We will be posting this. Was a really great points because the process, as you know, is daunting. And we hold sessions like this to really take the mystery out of it. It is to have a contracting officer, and we really thank Christopher for his time because a lot of times you don't really get to have that connection and have someone who can really give you what I'll call skinny on how all of this works. And so I think it's so essential to these kinds of relationships and partnerships. The other thing I do want to let everyone know, when we had this event in April, there were some opportunities coming up. And so some of them may have already taken place. There are others that are still in the pipeline. There'll be a new, the new year has started as well. From a contracting perspective, the government fiscal year ends June 30th, so a new year has started. And so there's great opportunity to look across, particularly across industries that don't always have those opportunities. I saw some marketing opportunities, IT opportunities, I saw some HR opportunities, a lot of different things. And if you go back to the list of everything that we provided from the earlier webinar that as well on usblackchambers.org/webinars. You'll get a really good sense of what's out there from a Treasury perspective. So before I turn it back, I want to give the two of you an opportunity to just close with one key point that you want, one key takeaway that you want people to have.
Okay, I can talk a lot and say a whole lot of things because I do, but there's so many things. But the key is that you really, really have to do your homework. You have to do market research on the organization, whether it's Treasury or someone else, because again, you don't up the wrong tree, right? Your time is valuable as a small business. Most of you are probably small business. You don't want to waste your time or the agency's time by barking up the wrong tree. So you want to make sure that you're approaching the right audience. And I'll leave the audience with this. And I know you ladies, you guys, well, not guys, I'm learning something in diversity, certain terms used anymore. But everyone on the call today, I did offer, Treasury's doing an event on August the 16th. And it's more of a learning series that we're doing. So everyone on the call, and Alicia and her team will handle that. You guys are more than welcome to participate in that event. And I think it will be very useful. So we're covering topics. We're talking about the federal procurement data system. We're talking about a live demo on how you search for requirements on Treasury's forecast of contract duties. And also we're talking about how do you respond to an RFI, right? And then I'll end by saying with the federal, that's just another tool that will be very useful to you to help you do research to determine who is buying what. It will give you a history of who awarded what contracts in what area. And so when you see those things like, okay, well, Treasury did buy this last year, maybe they will be buying it next year. It'll give you an idea of where to go to do your marketing. So I'll leave you with that, but I can't stress it any more than that. Understand. And if you don't mind, Elise and the team, I'm willing to give out my email address. If someone wants to reach out to me individually and ask me a question they don't want to ask today, I'm happy to do that. And you can reach me at pamela.wilson@treasury.gov. That's pamela.wilson@treasury.gov. And I'll even give you my phone number. It's 202-531-2174. That's 202-531-2174. And I'll answer any question that you have. I think I can answer most of them. But if I don't have an answer, I'll find an answer. And if I don't find the answer, I will tell you I could not. I'm a very transparent person. So I hope that I was able to share some useful information with you today. And once again, just want to thank the team, at least in the team, for inviting Treasury out today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Christopher, any last closing thoughts from you?
Yeah. So, I mean, the whole idea of, the first thing that the government does in any procurement is market research. So I would venture to say that it's a great idea to do your market research. And what that means to me from a contractor's perspective, there's a lot of things going on there, but I mean, there's a focus there area that we have, the forecasted opportunities and things like that the Treasury has and stuff like that. But having a more broad perspective is getting familiar with what's now SAM, was Fed Biz Ops, but basically SAM is where all the contracting opportunities are posted. So that's a good thing to keep out on. Just keep a reminder to check that even if you have something on it, sending it to you automatically, that if something's posted, something of that nature, I would still get on there every once in a while and at least check, because sometimes those aren't coded right by contracting folks. But the other thing from get very, very good with forensics. Forensics for contracting is what I'd call that. And then if I was to give a branding on it, it would be start at FPDS, understand there's all sorts of information in there that's public that talks about when contracts end, what makes it was for. Sometimes it is okay enough to understand what was awarded. That's a starting point, because if you can start with a contract was awarded, say awarded in the open market on FPDS, you can take, like, say, the contract number. That contract should have had a public announcement. basically in most cases, unless there's other reasons. But anyways, most cases, so you can backtrack that and do a search on the connection to the solicitation or any reference IDs on that FPDS in SBO, or excuse me, SAM, see the contract opportunity because they'll connect to the solicitation. So then with that amount of power, that forensic power that you have with FPDS all the way to SAM, you have the ability, what was solicited and the ultimate price for the contract. So you can probably get competitive pricing information out of that too. So use forensics and start at FP backtrack and all the other systems that you have access to, which is basically SAM. You know what I mean? You have to think a little bit like like that. So that I would say that would be very helpful for you guys to find more opportunities too.
No, I love the private eye side of what you're talking about, because I think that's what it does require. It's a thought process. And I think also when you're going back researching, particularly if you want to look for subcontracting opportunities, it's a good way to know who the primes are and be able to do your business development with them as well, right? Because some of this you want to, a lot of them always have to have some money participation, and making those relationships, I think, are really key in this process. I want to thank you both for joining us today. Pamela, if you give us that information about the 16th, we'll make sure that we push that out as well, because we always follow up these opportunities with information. We'll share your information with those who are part of kind of our group of is looking for these Treasury opportunities. And I just, again, want to thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for the opportunities that you're giving to us. I'm always so grateful that you reached out and said, you know, we want to make sure that your businesses have access to these opportunities, and both for that. So again, we'll continue to do more of these. I think, I know there's a couple of announcements if you want to share those, Warren. But I do want to thank our panelists just very, very much for this conversation today.
Yes, thank you, Elisa. And thank you, Pamela Wilson and Christopher Frank, for an insightful conversation. I am sure that our listeners and our audience have benefited greatly from the insights that you have shared today. Yes, now to share for events like these that you see, ask that you regularly visit and certify for upcoming events at usblackchambers.org webinars. Follow us on social media, usblackchambers.org. If today's forum prompted additional questions and interests, contact us at programs@usblackchambers.org. I would like to thank you to our moderator, Elisa Joseph. And again, thank our for sharing insightful information. And let's see. And on behalf of President Ron Buzz Sr., our board and directors and our staff, we want to thank all of you for attending today's session. And I wish you all a happy Black Business Month.